Hi, and welcome to this afternoon's session. It is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for this afternoon. Andrew Chung is the founder, president, and CEO of 01 Communique and IronCap. He started 01 Communique in 1992 and took the company public in 2000. Andrew was a nominee of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2001. He holds a BSc honors degree in computer science from the University of Western Ontario. Besides over 25 years' experience in communications, mobile, and cybersecurity solutions development, he also has 12 years' experience in patent prosecution. Andrew is a co-inventor of 7 patents plus several patent-pending applications. Andrew's expertise and curiosity in post-quantum cybersecurity led to the birth of IronCap. He and his team researched, developed, patented, and demonstrated the world's first proven commercially available quantum-safe data encryption. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Shelley. Actually, thank you for exposing my age. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Chung. I am the president and CEO of 01 Communique in Toronto, Canada. We are a Canadian public company specialized in cybersecurity solution and software for many years. Today, I am very happy having with me an industry heavyweight expert, Joseph Steinberg, as our speaker. Joseph is a cybersecurity think tank, not only the author of a bestseller, Cybersecurity for Dummies, but also an expert witness in many legal cases related to cybersecurity. So before I bring Joseph on the stage, I like to set the stage for Joseph by talking about 3 things. First of all, I like to talk about the relationship between phishing email and ransomware attack. And then I'm going to talk about the current antidote to the problem and what you can do about it and why they are not working as expected. And then finally, I will talk about our solution to the problem, the IronCap X, which is the next level of email security product. So let's straight get to the point. Everyone understand and know that the phishing email and ransomware attacks are very serious issue, but exactly how serious it is, let's put it into context. First of all, proof point. A proof point reported that 57%, I repeat 57%, that's more than half, right, of organizations have experienced a successful phishing attack last year. That's more than half in 1 year. And the Cybercrime magazine also have reported that for every 11 seconds, there is a victim company as a ransomware attack by the end of this year. And then IBM also have reported that the average cost of a ransomware attack is more than $4.6 million. That is more than the average cost of any data breach. So this is really a top crime contributing to 44% of all business losses. The bottom line is that phishing is a serious issue and it's a major source of ransomware attack. So no wonder why the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, says cyber attacks is now the formal risk of the global financial system, even more so than the lending and liquidity risk that led to the 2008 financial meltdown. So this is not invented by Andrew Chung, but actually indeed a word-by-word comment from Mr. Powell. So it's a very serious issue. So let's face the reality. If you haven't been phished or hacked, you will be. And even worse, you may not even recognize it because the hacker, once they're into your system, they can decide to act immediately, or they can even wait for years before they take action and lock the data and demand a ransom. Or maybe they just sell your data on the dark web. And certainly this is also a very popular way for nation state sponsor hacking. And the bottom line is phishing is here to stay. And it is a huge problem that we need to deal with it. And this problem can only get worse and much worse with the arrival of quantum computers, because the excessive computing power of quantum computers is going to render current cybersecurity encryption technologies such as RSAs totally useless and opening our data. And this problem is a lot closer than you think, because just IBM alone, IBM has already announced their roadmap expecting a 1,000 qubit quantum computer by 2023. And this is only IBM, and their competitors are all working to beat them. And this 1,000 qubit is enough power to crack existing encryption technology already. So with the time that it takes to replace encryption technology, there's really no time to wait. It is kind of like, I always use the analogy, it's like the siren of a tsunami. A lot of people see the blue sky hearing the siren, but they see the blue sky and say, hey, you know, there's no problem, let's have a swim, and lost their life. And this is the same thing. When you can see the tsunami, it is too late to run already. So the good news is there are antidote to the problem. And I'm sure you're aware of, there are a lot of consultants out there who would give you a lot of solutions such as zero trust practice, employee protocol, antivirus software, or AI threat detection software, etc., etc. The list just goes on. And but based on the statistic of ransomware, I think it is either they're not being implemented properly, or it's not working, or maybe both. Now, don't get me wrong. I see a lot of value in this kind of solution, but only that they are not the perfect the antidote to the problem of phishing. In my opinion, the best antidote to the problem of phishing, it should be a preventive measure rather than a aftermath medicine, because phishing is actually an email problem. So the preventive measure should be an email security product. And there are a lot of email security products in the market, or digital signature product in the market. However, they are either not being end-to-end secure, or they are being wrongly advertised as being end-to-end. In other words, either your encrypted message or the decryption key are being stored in a third-party server. Now, we call this a man-in-the-middle solution. And this is obviously not secure because there's a third-party server who has the full ability to decrypt your sensitive data. And this actually breaks the rule of zero trust right at the gate. And even worse, the server is now becoming a juicy target for the bad actors. Now, on the flip side, our IronCAP solution, right, is a true end-to-end the product, so that your email is actually encrypted at your computer and then stay encrypted all the way until it reaches your recipient, without being existed in any way, shape, or form of decrypted form along the way. So in other words, only your recipient can decrypt your email. I keep jokingly saying that if this was available in 2016, maybe Clinton would be the president, because the FBI or the CIA would have no chance of reading her email. And so this is end-to-end email encryption. And then on the digital signature side, it works more or less the same way, that your email is actually digitally signed at your computer, and then it will stay signed all the way until it reaches your recipient. So in other words, when your recipient sees an email with your digital signature, your recipient will know that this is an authentic email from you, right? Not from any kind of phishing email. What happens, like next time if you receive an email with a proper digital signature and your friend is saying that I'm stuck in nowhere, I'm asking for $1,000 help to get me out of here, you might want to send him the money, because it is legit. So we are launching this business version of IronCAP X before the end of this month. And IronCAP X is the best email security product, not only because of its true end-to-end nature, but also because it is quantum safe. This means it is secure against both classical computer today and all the way to the new quantum computing era. It is highly effective and very low cost, $100 a year. And we also provide a free personal version for you to try before you dive into the business version. So let me summarize here. A quick summary is that phishing is huge. and it's very disruptive. And if you haven't been phished yet, you will. And current cybersecurity products are not the true antidote to this kind of a problem. And IronCAP X will take you to the next level of email security with this true nature of quantum safe and end-to-end security. And as indicated, you can easily sign up a free version to try, a personal version to try before you dive into the business version. And by just visiting the ironcap.ca website. And the IronCAP X is practically the world's first quantum safe enterprise product that the general public can touch and feel. And it is also acting as a showcase for our quantum safe IronCAP engine, because the encryption engine is basically applicable to many the vertical solutions, and email is just one of the very many, and there are other verticals that can be used to upgrade the product to become quantum safe, such as remote access solutions, credit card securities, financial transaction security, cryptocurrency security, IoT devices security, website security. This just goes on and on. So I think it's enough for me to set the stage. As I mentioned earlier, I am very happy today. With me, we have a heavyweight industry expert, Joseph Steinberg, as our speaker. Again, Joseph is an industry expert, think tank, not only the author of a bestseller, Cybersecurity for Dummies, but also an expert witness for many legal cases related to cybersecurity. The good news is, to maintain his professional standard, Joseph is going to present as product neutral and focusing the discussion as informational exchange and educational. So in other words, while he is definitely a fan of our IronCAP technology, he will not ask you to buy IronCAP the same way I do. So I would like Joseph to introduce himself. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joseph Steinberg.
Thank you, Andrew. It's great to be here this evening. I'm coming to you from New York. As Andrew said, I'm in the cybersecurity space for a few years. I think also date myself, although my lack of hair probably indicates that I've been around the corner. I'm in the field since the early 1990s, which was a time where many major corporations had 0 or 1 internet security people. The world has changed a little bit since then, obviously. And cybersecurity has become much more essential, not just to businesses, but to every person in the Western world. In the early 1990s, this wasn't a topic that most people would be interested in. And now it's a topic that, unfortunately, everybody needs to be interested in. And the topics that Andrew had mentioned, phishing, the era of quantum arriving, these are all great topics to talk about because they are real issues that people are starting to be aware of. And as Andrew alluded to, they're kind of like a tsunami that's on its way in. And once it gets to the point where you actually see the tsunami, we're in trouble. So I'm happy to be here.
Very good, very good. So I think, Joseph, thank you for your great introduction. I have a few questions trying to pick your brain. First of all, as we all know, phishing, and mentioned a little bit earlier, phishing is the main source of ransomware attack. And ransomware is the epidemic. So does email really need an overhaul? And can we incorporate quantum safety into email solution, actually?
That's a great question. We probably could talk about it all day, so I'll try to keep it a little short. As you can tell, I'm excited about this topic. So first of all, phishing. This isn't a new problem, right? I mean, there's been phishing emails for 20 years. The problem hasn't gone away, right? It's just that the stakes have gotten worse. At the beginning, they were trying to get, your login and password to a checking account. Maybe they got in, maybe the anti-fraud systems got there. Now you got ransomware coming in, which has got a lot more, potential damage to a business and much more costly. I think you mentioned that the average case now is multi-million in terms of damage. So, this is serious stuff. So the stakes are going up, not down. when it comes to phishing. But phishing is actually a problem that's been around as long as there are people. 1,000 years ago, if a knight from the Red Empire killed a knight from the Blue Empire and took the Blue Knight's, armor and then showed up at a Blue Knight castle and said, I'm the Blue Knight because I'm in the Blue Knight's armor, they might let him in. Impersonation is not a new thing. Phishing is just impersonation in a technology venue. And the same way that human stupidity cannot be cured, right? Human error cannot be cured. The same way people made mistakes 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, they're going to make mistakes today. So no matter what we do to train, we have to understand that some attacks, phishing attacks, are going to get through. So we really need a mechanism to prevent the opportunities of somebody seeing a phishing email and saying, oh, this looks legit. And you had alluded to, for example, end-to-end encryption and digital signatures. These are technologies that take the decision away from the human as to, hey, does this email sound right, into something that, technologically is obvious. This is real. It's got the digital signature, from my boss saying pay the bill. And this one is obviously not from my boss because it's lacking the digital signature and says send money to somebody I never heard of, right? So there are technologies that can help in this regard. You had mentioned quantum. So that's the tsunami that's coming because all of our digital signatures and all of our encryption is using, not all, but essentially all, today is using technology that's going to be crackable once the quantum era really comes. And I think it's coming a lot faster than people think.
Well, thank you, Joseph. You have said it all. Yeah, basically, the two things are in common. Like first of all, you needed to be authenticated. Knowing that it is the Blue Knight. Is the Blue Knight, not the other side. And that kind of a digital signature can be the proof, but then it only works today if your digital signature technology is not quantum safe, and then quantum computer can come in and then breaking that trust. And so only when it is quantum safe that it can go through that glass ceiling and survive through the tsunami. I like your analogy. That's very good. So talking about quantum the computer, so you have alluded that quantum computing also is much closer than many people wants to believe. And IBM is expecting a 1,000 qubit openly. They stated that by 2023. With enough power to render current encryption systems such as RSA useless. And the biggest problem is these are just the known fact, and they are still some kind of national level. You don't know what kind of computer they have, what kind of quantum computer they have. And then IBM's competitors would also, everyone working, trying to beat each other. So do you think organizations are really ready for that?
No, it's a one-word answer. They're not. And this is actually a very big problem. And I think we're actually understating it. The problem isn't that 2 years from now, things will become vulnerable going forward. If you have digital signatures on documents today, and 2 years from now, the mechanism used for signing them is no longer considered secure, but that's how you've stored them. Your existing documents could be challenged as being, illegitimate or fraudulent, and you will have no way necessarily to prove that they're not. And again, I'm not going into every possible permutation, but the point is, these are kinds of problems that can't be resolved after the technology is available, because it undermines the trust of things that are already out there that you need to be trusted, whether it's digital signatures or data, right? If you've stored healthcare data, encrypted in backups on some shelf somewhere, and that encryption algorithm is no longer considered secure in 2 years, did you properly protect that data? It's still sitting encrypted in a then insecure fashion, right? So this isn't about the fact that this is going to undo encryption for the future. It's all the existing data that's sensitive and all the data that's signed is at risk once this day comes. And it's not one day, it's a process. But as you said, if IBM is predicting, 2023 to start seeing some of the early systems that could, undermine the trust in, today's, asynchronous systems in RSA, et cetera, even if they're wrong, so let's say it's 2024, 2025, so what? You're saying, okay, I have time because 3 years from now, all my data will no longer be trustworthy. I mean, when are you planning to start thinking about that? The day before? And again, IBM is not the only player. I would be amazed if the CIA or the NSA are not experimenting with things and maybe well ahead of this. We don't know, right? Or the Chinese government or the Russian government, or who knows, right? The point is, this isn't science fiction. We're going to have a day in the not so distant future where our existing encryption will be basically not trustworthy anymore. And anything stored with this kind of encryption won't be trusted. And it's not far away. So, when are you planning to think about it? The time to think about it is now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Actually, I can share with you that when we were outside, talking to potential partners, like we have today CGI as a partner, Hitachi in Japan as a partner, and PricewaterhouseCoopers as a partner. But when they were talking to their customers, pitching about this tsunami, quote quote tsunami, and yes, there are some forward-looking companies who really can see what you just talked about in the last 5 minutes. But there are also lots of companies who are really taking the stance of, what, there seems to be a blue sky out there. Let's see what other people are doing before I jump in. We see a lot of those attitudes, and it seems to be very dangerous. So what do you think about other sectors such as cryptocurrency? Would this be obviously when Bitcoin is hitting $65,000 level, people are more worried about that than ever. I have heard a lot of people asking about, is cryptocurrency in danger too, with this kind of digital signature problem,
There's a lot of unknowns. Sometimes when it comes to crypto, they can make adjustments because the majority of the networks, let's call it, agree on something, and you can fork, changes or make changes. It's not like having to go through a formal, let's say, government assessment that can take years to come up and accept a decision on how to change things. So there are mechanisms, to put in better encryption and signatures down the line if need be, if they get there. But I think, the bigger picture problem is people, as you said, people aren't thinking about it. Just think about COVID, right? 5 years ago, if someone had said, 2020, 2021, the whole world is going to shut down, okay, we would have thought that crazy, but it happened, right? And that's something that in 2016 or 2015 didn't have to happen, right? It's something that maybe would happen, maybe wouldn't happen. The quantum thing is going to happen. This is a certainty, right? Unless the world somehow got destroyed, we are going to have quantum computers, and they are going to make our current encryption essentially useless and worthless. The only question is how much time. So if you know it's going to happen, you might as well start thinking about it when companies like IBM are saying it's pretty close. In a worst case scenario, you got protected a little early. In a bad case scenario, you're standing on the beach when the tsunami hits and you don't even know what hit you. But this is not like COVID, where there was no way to expect it to happen. We know this is going to happen. There's 100% certainty we are going to have computers that are going to undermine encryption that exists today.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph. I think we have talked about a lot about the problem. So let's switch gear a little bit to the solution. We constantly hearing a lot of pitch about zero trust practice, employee protocol, AI threat detection, antivirus software, etc., etc. So, but based on current data breach or a ransomware attack statistics, right? These solutions are obviously either not being implemented properly, or to some extent not working, or maybe both. So in your expert opinion, what do you think is missing, here?
Well, I think security is a layered approach, right? Training employees not to do stupid things is important. But if you think that training employees is going to be 100% effective, I mean, come on, you can't cure human error or human stupidity, right? And there's always going to be new kinds of attacks and new kinds of tricks. So, training is essential. And, zero trust is a great concept, but you never really can get to the point of a pure zero trust system. It's a path towards that, right? And even the way you're implementing the zero trust system is going to be using typically all sorts of encryption algorithms underneath, whether it's in the authentication process, etc. So, there is no magic formula that's going to fix, with zero trust and say, okay, we have a perfect zero trust system, so nothing can go wrong. And, some of the other approaches also, they add value, but they're not really things that can solve the problem. And I think it's time we're honest with ourselves, right? Security is a layering approach, and no one approach is going to solve everything. When it comes to phishing, right? So phishing email specifically, the biggest problem is that email is not a secure protocol. I mean, SFTP, POP, whatever you're using to read it, email inherently is not secure. You have to layer something on top of it to make it secure. Email, the generic, email concept has no proof of who sends something, and it has no encryption. When you read an email on your computer, let's say, I send you an email and you're reading it, you're actually not reading an email from me. You're reading that the computer is saying that I said this, but I'm not there telling you that. It's really not much different than running into someone in the street and they say, Joe said this. Right? The only way I actually sent it is if you have a digital signature and encrypted, obviously, so that no one could, it could modify it. The encryption is make sure no one else can read it. So if you're not layering on things like digital signatures and encryption, email is basically your computer. The computer is essentially serving like someone on the street saying, Joe said this, Bob said this, Chase Bank said this, TD Bank said this. That's not a secure communication mechanism. And that's why phishing and things like that work, because people look at the computer, they see the message and it says sent by, bank, TD Bank, and they say, okay, TD Bank sent the message. But the reality is it's not. It's just the computer saying that, unless you have digital signatures. So I think digital signatures play a very big piece in preventing, it's not preventing human error, it's preventing the opportunity for human error. If the message comes in and it says, this message came from your boss, signed saying pay this bill, that's very different than if you get a message that says, hey, this is your boss, I'm about to get on a plane and I can't call you, so please just pay this new party you never heard of before. And there's no signature, and you're expecting a digital signature. That raises red flags, right? So instead of relying on the human to try to figure everything out, the technology can tell the person, hey, this was signed by your boss, this one wasn't. And that really is a big help.
Yeah, and that also dovetails back, to the earlier question about cryptocurrency, because the cryptocurrency is basically all secured by digital signature. The blockchain itself is safe. It is still safe in the quantum computing era, but then the digital signature is vulnerable. If the wallet or the miner, can be forged and then created a transaction that is not correct, the whole trust system basically just disintegrated, and it's a huge problem, out there. So,
right. The hope is that the people who've invested and own these things understand the problem and will agree, 50.001% will agree to replace some of these mechanisms with things that can stand, continue to stand in a quantum era. They have the capability to do that, but they have to do it, and they can't do it when it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, well, thank you, Joseph, for your really insightful comments. I think we have a few minutes. I'd like to reserve a few minutes for the questions from the audience. Here's one question. Dear was asking, what encryption framework do you recommend that are future-proof?
So there are multiple ways to address the quantum issue when it comes to encryption. I think it's beyond the scope of this presentation to explain all of them. I mean, I guess, Andrew, you could explain why you chose to do it the way you did, which is actually the way you did it is the way that's known to actually work. But there are all sorts of theories as to how to address this. One thing I will say, and it's very important to understand, the word future-proof doesn't exist in cybersecurity. It's, proof for the immediate X number of years. We can't predict what's going to be 25 years from now. Just like 25 years ago, they couldn't predict from this. And so one of the most important concepts in security is just because you're secure now doesn't mean you can say, okay, everything's fine, I don't need to do anything else. Just like those backups that were stored encrypted with, typical, RSA or whatever, asymmetric, symmetric, whatever you're using for encryption, 5 years ago may be perfectly secure for that time period. That doesn't mean that those backups will be secure, the same backups 10 years later. So just understand that the concept of future-proof is something that you constantly have to have on your mind, what's developing and what's changing. But Andrew, I think you should go into, why you chose the approach that you did, because
Sure.
you're really the expert on that.
Well, I can jump in a little bit here. Supposedly we're staying as product neutral, but I can at least coming from the angle of the encryption technology to explain a little bit as neutral as possible. Encryption technology is very different from other technology. For any encryption, just like what Joseph said, there's no one solution that is always like future-proof. It is always safe until it's proven unsafe. This is encryption technology, and you don't even need to have really broken the encryption in order for the encryption to be considered as garbage. All it needs is that there is a mathematic cracking theory being accepted by the cybersecurity world that this is a true theory. Then it is toasted already. You don't even need to have someone really prove to be hacked. And live example would be that MD5 hashing technology. Like in 2004, it was given a theory that you can do a collision, and no one even attempted to really crack it, and it is already toasted. So the best way to choose an encryption is try to see how long it has been time tested with no mathematic cracking theory. That would be the number one the determining factor to see how successful and how safe that encryption technology. And when we pick the technology to be included in our IronCAP technology, that's the criteria we follow. Is how many years that technology has been no mathematic cracking theory, and the one that we picked was like almost 50 years with no mathematic cracking the theory. So that's the way to prove. Like anyone, you and me and Joseph, we can think of a new encryption technology today, and maybe that is safe for 1 day, 2 days, but then it would be cracked. So time testing is actually the most important determining criteria, in our opinion.
Right, I think that's actually a critical point. We're talking about the fact that quantum computing is going to undermine encryption. That doesn't mean it's actually been done yet. It's just that mathematically we understand how it can be done. And once we understand how it can be done, it's really just a matter of time, right? You don't want to use something that is vulnerable. It's just a question of when does the vulnerability actually get exploited, and that's really the issue, I think, today, right? I think that's a fair way to put it. As far as we know, there's no computer right now that can do this. Of course, we don't know, right? CIA, NSA, who knows? But there's no computer you can buy that would undermine it today. But we know that a computer that you're going to be able to buy in X years will for sure be able to undermine the encryption algorithms and key sizes that we're using today.
Right. There's another question just came up here from the audience. It says, interesting proactive approach against quantum-based cyber attack. Could you comment on the accuracy of the data to test your algorithm as the technology is not really there yet? So I think this is really dovetail back to what we just talked about. You know, like the cybersecurity is not about proving you can crack. You know, once you have a theory of cracking, it's done already. You know, so you don't even need to have someone to prove that it is crackable. As long as there is no mathematic cracking theory, that encryption is supposed to be safe against anything, you know, as of today, because you have to have a theory first before you can apply that theory to whether you have a classical computer or a quantum computer or anything, you know, to crack it. You got to have a theory first, and without a theory, you know, it is safe against basically anything. That's the kind of judgment criteria, you know, for cybersecurity safety, you know, in my opinion.
It's about whether do we know how to crack something, and you know, when we have a theory, it essentially means we know how to crack it. Just someone's got to sit down and do it, and that's the problem. You know, once the industry knows how it can be done, you just have to assume someone's going to do it if you keep using it. So, as you said, it's toast.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's all the question that being posted here. So again, thank you very much, Joseph, for your insightful comments, and also thank you to CyberX for organizing this event. And more information can be found on our website, ironcap.ca. So looking forward to have more of this kind of event in the near future. And thanks again, Joseph, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to having these events. Hopefully we get together in person soon. So
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
Absolutely.
Thank you.